In this video, we're going to focus on pre-algebra. We're going to cover some common topics that you might see in this course. So the first thing that you need to be able to do is add and subtract integers. For example, let's say if we want to add 5 plus 3. Now, many of you know that 5 plus 3 is 8. But if you ever have difficulty with this type of math, use a number line. Let's start with 5. You could place it anywhere. Whenever you're adding a number to another number, you need to move to the right of the number line anytime you're adding. And if you need to subtract, travel towards the left. So in this case, we want to add 3 to 5. So we need to travel 3 units to the right. 1, 2, 3. This is 6, 7, 8. So therefore, 5 plus 3 is 8. Now let's try some more examples. What is negative 4 plus 5? Let's use the number line to get the answer. So we're going to start with negative 4, and we're going to add 5 to it. So we're going to travel 5 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1. So negative 4 plus 5 is positive 1. Let's work on another example. 7 minus 5. So we're going to start with 7, and this time we're subtracting it by 5. So we need to travel 5 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. So 7 minus 5 is 2. Now what about negative 4 minus 2? So let's start with negative 4. And we're going to subtract it by 2. So we need to go 2 units to the left. And actually, that should be negative 5. Negative 3 is on the right side. So this is negative 6. Therefore, negative 4 minus 2 is equal to negative 6. Now what about this one? Negative 6 minus negative 3. If you were to see something that looks like that, what would you do? Whenever you have two negative signs right next to each other, it's equivalent to a positive sign. When you multiply negative by negative, it's equal to a positive number. So we're looking for negative 6 plus 3. So if we're adding, we need to travel to the right. 1, 2, 3. This is negative 5, negative 4, negative 3. And so negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3. Now what about 8 plus negative 5? What's the answer for this one? So if we start at 8 and we're subtracting it by 5, by the way, this expression is equal to 8 minus 5. A positive times a negative is a negative sign. So we need to travel 5 units to the left. This is going to be 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So 8 minus 5 is positive 3. Now let's talk about multiplication. What is 8 times 3? So you could answer this question easily if you have memorized your multiplication tables. But in the event that you don't know, just remember multiplication is simply repeated addition. 8 times 3 means that you're adding 8 3 times. It's also equivalent to adding 3 8 times. But it's easier to add 8 3 times. 8 plus 8 is 16, and 16 plus 8 is 24. So therefore, 8 times 3 is 24. Let's work on another example. What's 9 times 4? 9 times 4 is equivalent to adding 9 4 times. 9 plus 9 is 18. So these two 9s add up to 18. And the other two 9s add up to 18 as well. And 18 plus 18 is 36. So therefore, 9 times 4 is 36. Now what is negative 5 multiplied by 3? A negative times a positive number will give you a negative result. So we could just focus on adding 5 3 times and then make the entire thing negative. 5 plus 5 is 10, and 10 plus 5 is 15. So therefore, negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. Try this one. What is negative 6 multiplied by negative 8? When you multiply two negative numbers, you're going to get a positive result. So this is equivalent to multiplying 6 times 8. So I'm going to add 8 6 times instead of adding 6 8 times. Now adding 2 8s will give me 16. So I have 16 plus 16 plus 16. And 16 plus 16 is 32. And 32 plus 16 is 48. So therefore, negative 6 times negative 8 is equal to this number, positive 48. Now let's move on to our next example. Let's focus on division. What is 54 divided by 6? Now, it's important to understand that division is the opposite of multiplication. 6 multiplied by what number is equal to 54? So how many times do you have to add 6 to get to 54? It turns out that 6 times 9 is 54, so 54 divided by 6 is 9. So division is simply the opposite of multiplication. So here's another example. What is negative 45 divided by positive 9? A negative number divided by a positive number will give you a negative result. So we know the overall answer is negative. So let's just focus on dividing 45 by 9. So 9 times what number is equal to negative 45? It turns out that you have to add 9 5 times to get to 45. 9 plus 9 is 18. 18 plus 9 is 27. 27 plus 9 is 36. 36 plus 9 is 45. So therefore 9 times negative 5 is negative 45. And if we focus on the reverse statement, negative 45 divided by 9, that's going to be negative 5. And so that's a quick and simple way to perform simple division. Here's another example. What's negative 12 divided by negative 2? When you divide two negative numbers, you're going to get a positive result. So this is equivalent to dividing 12 by 2. So 2 times what number is 12? You have to add 2 6 times to get to 12. 2 plus 2 is 4. If you add another 2, that's 6, and then 8, and then 10, and then 12. So therefore, 2 times 6 is equal to 12. And 12 divided by 2 has to be 6. Now let's say if you have this problem. What is 8 minus 5 times 4? So what is the answer? Now there's two possible ways of attempting to do this problem. And one of the two ways that I'm going to show you is the right answer. The other is not. So should we subtract first or should we multiply first? If we subtract, 8 minus 5 is 3. And 3 times 4 is 12. We're going to get that result. But now, let's say if we multiply first. Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. So this becomes 8 minus 20. And 8 minus 20 is negative 12. So the results are different. So which one comes first, subtraction or multiplication? Perhaps you heard of PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. P stands for parentheses, E, exponents, M, multiplication, D, division, A is addition, S is subtraction. And so anytime you need to figure out which operation comes first, look at this expression. This is associated with the order of operations. And parentheses have the highest priority. Now, we're comparing a multiplication and subtraction. So therefore, you should always multiply first before you subtract. Multiplication has more priority than subtraction. So that's how you can use PEMDAS to know which operation should come first. So therefore, this is the correct answer. 8 minus 5 times 4 is negative 12. Now, you can confirm your answer using a scientific calculator if you have access to it. Simply type this expression exactly the way you see it, and the answer that you should get is negative 12. Now, let's move on to another example. Try this one. What is 6 plus 24 divided by 4? So feel free to take a minute and work on this example. So according to PEMDAS, division has more priority over addition. So PEMDAS. So as you look at the letters towards the left, they have more priority over the letters on the right. So D is to the left of A. So division has more priority than addition. So you should divide first before you add. So what is 24 divided by 4? 24 divided by 4 is 6 because 4 times 6 is 24. And 6 plus 6 is 12. So that's the final answer in this example. Now let's try another one. What is 8 minus 5 multiplied by 7? So should we subtract or should we multiply first in this case? In this case, you should subtract. You need to perform the operation inside the parentheses. So you're comparing parentheses to multiplication. And you need to work inside the parentheses before you multiply. So 8 minus 5 is 3. And 3 times 7 is 21. So that's the answer in this particular example. Now what about this problem? What is 24 divided by 4 multiplied by 3? Should we perform division first or multiplication? Now, according to the word PEMDAS, it appears that multiplication has more priority than division because it's on the left. But it turns out that these two terms, multiplication and division, they have the same priority. And addition and subtraction also have the same priority. Now, when you see a problem like this where you can multiply or divide first, you need to travel from left to right. That means you should work on the operations on the left and then save the operations on the right for last. So we're going to do it two ways. Let's divide first. 24 divided by 4 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. Now let's do it the other way. Let's perform multiplication first. 4 times 3 is 12. And 24 divided by 12 is 2. So as we could see, we get different answers here. If you type this in your calculator, hopefully you have a scientific calculator, it will give you 18 as the answer. So whenever you have division and multiplication, simply work from the left side to the right side, and that will give you the right answer. Now what about a problem that looks like this? In this case, what should we do? According to PEMDAS, parentheses has more priority than multiplication and division. So in this case, we need to work inside the parentheses. 4 times 3 is 12. And so we have 24 divided by 12, which is 2. And if you type this in exactly the way you see it in a scientific calculator, you should get 2 as your answer. And that's how you could confirm all of these problems. Just type it in the calculator and see what you get. Now let's work on another problem. What is 48 divided by 8 minus 2 multiplied by 3? So first, we need to work inside the parentheses. 8 minus 2 is 6. So we have 48 divided by 6 times 3. Now that we have division and multiplication, we need to work starting from the left towards the right. 48 divided by 6 is 8. And 8 times 3 is 24. And so that's going to be the final answer for this problem. Here's another example. What is 32 minus 24 divided by 8 divided by 2? So feel free to pause the video and simplify this expression. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 32 minus 24 is 8, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So that's going to be the final answer in this example. Try these two problems. What's 7 multiplied by 9 minus 4? And what is 3 times 4 plus 8 minus 2 divided by 2? So the one above is simple. We need to work inside the parentheses first. 9 minus 4 is 5, and 7 times 5 is 35. Now let's work on this example. So first, we need to subtract 8 by 2. 8 minus 2 is 6. And now we need to work inside the brackets. 6 divided by 2, that's equal to 3. So we have 3, 4 plus 3. Now what's our next step? 4 plus 3 is 7, and 3 times 7 is 21. So that's the final answer for that example. Now sometimes you may need to evaluate algebraic expressions. For example, let's say if we have the expression xy divided by 2 plus 5. And let's say that you're told x is equal to 4 and y is equal to 3. What is the value of this expression? If you see a question like this, all you need to do is replace x with its value. X is equal to 4, and y, we're going to replace it with 3. So what we now have is 4 times 3 divided by 2 plus 5. 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 plus 5 is 11. So that is the value of this expression given x equals 4 and y equals 3. Let's work on another example. Evaluate the expression. Let's say the expression is 4x plus 3y minus 2z. And let's say that x is equal to 5, y is 2, and z is equal to 3. So all we need to do is substitute. We need to replace x with its value of 5, and we're going to replace y with 2 and z with 3, and then just perform the operation. 4 times 5 is 20. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 3 is also 6. 6 minus 6 is 0, and 20 plus 0 is simply 20. So therefore, that's the value of this expression. Let's try another example. What is 5x minus 2 times y plus z? So let's say x is 3, y is 7, and z is 4. So feel free to pause the video and evaluate this expression. So let's replace x with 3, and y with 7, and z is 4. So don't forget to perform order of operations. We need to add 7 plus 4. We could multiply 5 times 3 simultaneously. That's going to be 15. 7 times 4 is 11. Now we need to multiply before we subtract. 2 times 11 is 22. So what we have is 15 minus 22, which will give you negative 7. And so that's the end result for this problem. Try this one. X squared minus y squared divided by 4z plus 8. And let's say that x is equal to 8, y is 6, and let's say z is 4. So x squared will be replaced with 8 squared, and y, let's replace it with 6. And then let's substitute z with 4. So this is the expression that we need to simplify. So now what is 8 squared? 8 squared is 8 times 8, which is 64. 6 squared, or 6 times 6, that's equal to 36. And on the bottom we have 4 times 4, which is 16. Now what is 64 minus 36? If we use a calculator, that's equal to 28. And 16 plus 8 is 24. Now this fraction is reducible. So how can we reduce this improper fraction? 28 is 7 times 4. 24 is 6 times 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so we can cancel it. So what we have left over is 7 divided by 6. And that is the answer. What would you do if you saw an expression that looks like this? What is 3 times x plus 4? So we can't really add x plus 4. X is a variable in which we don't know or have a value for. So we can't evaluate the expression, but we can simplify it. So how can we do so? Now there's something called the distributive property. We need to distribute 3 to x and 4. 3 multiplied by x is simply 3x. And 3 multiplied by positive 4, it's 12. So this expression is equal to 3x plus 12. Let's try another example. Now what is 4 multiplied by 2x minus 3? Go ahead and use the distributive property. 4 multiplied by 2x is equal to 8x. And 4 multiplied to negative 3 is negative 12. So this is equal to 8x minus 12. Now sometimes you may have some other algebraic expressions to simplify. Here's another one. What is 5x plus 3x? Go ahead and simplify it. All you need to do is add the coefficients. 5 plus 3 is 8. So this is equal to 8x. Now what about this? What's 7y plus 2y plus 8? So based on the last example, go ahead and simplify this expression. What we need to do is add like terms. 7y plus 2y, that's equal to 9y. Now we cannot add 9y and 8, because what is it going to be, 17 or 17y? Because the 8 doesn't have a y, it's not a similar term to 9y, so we cannot add them. Therefore, the final answer is 9y plus 8. Try this one. 3 times x plus 5 added to 8x. Now, before we could do anything, we need to perform or use the distributive property. So we got to distribute 3 to x, which we know it's going to be 3x, and we have to multiply 3 and 5, which is 15. Now the only common terms that we have are 3x and 8x. They're similar. They both carry the variable x. 3 plus 8 is 11. So 3x plus 8x is 11x. Therefore, the final answer is 11x plus 15. Here's another problem that you could try. 9x plus 5 minus 3x plus 8. Go ahead and simplify the algebraic expression. 9x minus 3x is equal to 6x. And 5 plus 8, well, that's 13. And so this is the answer, 6x plus 13. Now let's move on to solving simple linear equations. So here's an example. X plus 4 is equal to 11. What is the value of x? So x is simply a number which you currently don't know the value of. So ask yourself, what number plus 4 is equal to 11? Intuitively, you know that 7 plus 4 is 11. So therefore, x has to be equal to 7. But what can you do to show that x is equal to 7? You understand that 7 plus 4 is 11, but mathematically, how do you show that? In order to find the value of x, you need to isolate x. You need to get it by itself on one side of the equation. And all other numbers you must move to the other side of the equation. So we need to get rid of this 4 on the left side. The opposite of addition is subtraction. So if we subtract both sides by 4, we can get rid of the positive 4 on the left. 4 plus negative 4 is 0. and 11 minus 4 is 7. Any number added to 0 will be equal to that number. So x plus 0 is simply x. Therefore, x is equal to 7. Here's one you should work on. Y plus 5 is equal to negative 4. What is the value of y? Well, just like before, we need to isolate y. We need to get the y variable by itself. And so, to remove the positive 5 on the left, we need to subtract both sides by 5. So positive 5 and negative 5 adds up to 0, which is nothing. So what we have left over on the left side is simply y. On the right side, we have negative 4 plus negative 5, or simply negative 4 minus 5, which is equal to negative 9. If you use the number line technique, if you start with negative 4 and travel 5 units to the left, you should get negative 9. This is negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, negative 8, negative 9. Let's say that 12 is equal to x minus 8. What is the value of x? So x doesn't have to be on the left side. It can be on the right side by itself if we want to find the value of it. So we got to move the negative 8. We need to get rid of it on the right side. So the opposite of subtraction is addition. So let's add 8 to both sides. So this will cancel. We could bring down the x. And on the left side, we have 12 plus 8, which is 20. And so that is the value of x. Now what about this one? 3y is equal to 18. What is the value of y? So we need to separate 3 from y. Currently, the 3 is multiplied to y. The opposite of multiplication is division, so therefore we need to divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. 1y is the same as y, so therefore y is equal to 6. So if we look at this expression, 3 times what number is 18? We know that 3 times 6 is 18, so therefore y is equivalent to 6. Now what if you saw an example like this? 8 is equal to x divided by 4. What should you do to find the value of x? So x is divided by 4, and the opposite of division is multiplication. Therefore, we need to multiply both sides by 4. And that's how we can get rid of the 4 on the right side. 4 divided by 4 is 1. And so we just have x on the right side. On the left, we have 4 times 8, which is 32. So x is 32. Now what about that one? 2/3 x is equal to 9. How can we find the value of x? If you have a fraction in front of the variable that you want to isolate, multiply both sides by the reciprocal of the fraction. So that is, multiply both sides by 3 over 2. 9 is the same as 9 over 1. Now whatever you do to the left side, you must always do to the right side. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 2 divided by 2 is 1, so the 2's and 3's cancel on the left. On the right, we have 9 times 3, which is 27, and 1 times 2, which is 2. So the answer is 27 divided by 2. Now we could simplify this fraction if we want to. 27 is 26 plus 1, and 26 divided by 2 is 13. 13 plus a half is 13 and 1/2 as a mixed number. So as a decimal, this is equal to 13.5. So that is the value of x in this problem. Try this one. X plus 3 divided by 4 is equal to 10 over 5. Now, what can we do to find the value of x if we have two fractions separated by an equal sign? If you see this, the best thing you could do is cross multiply. 4 times 10 is 40. and 5 times x plus 3, we need to distribute the 5. So 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times 3 is 15. So this is what we now have. Our next step is to subtract both sides by 15. 40 minus 15 is 25. So 25 is equal to 5x. Next, we need to divide both sides by 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5, so x is equal to that number. Go ahead and try this. In that last example, we solved an equation that looks like this after cross multiplying. So this is a multi-step equation. Now, before separating 8 and x, you need to get rid of the 5 on the left side. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. 21 minus 5 is equal to 16. And now, we need to divide both sides by 8 to separate x from 8. So 16 divided by 8 is 2, and that is the value of x in this example. And we can check it. 8 times 2 plus 5. Is that equal to 21? 8 times 2 is 16. 16 plus 5 is 21. So x is indeed equal to 2. Go ahead and try this one. Let's say that we have 3 plus x divided by 4, and let's say that's equal to 5. What is the value of x? There's many ways in which you could solve it, but if you want to get rid of the fraction, multiply everything by 4. So 4 times 3 is 12. X divided by 4 times 4, the 4's will cancel, leaving behind x. And then we have 4 times 5, which is 20. And now all we need to do is subtract both sides by 12. 20 minus 12 is 8, and so that is the value of x. So if you're solving a linear equation and if you have fractions, it's helpful to multiply every term by the denominator of the fraction, just to clear away all fractions. Now what about this one? Sometimes you may have multiple fractions. What is the value of x? In this case, multiply by a multiple of 2, 3, and 4. 12 is the least common multiple of 2, 3, and 4. 12 is divisible by 2, 3, and 4. So first, let's multiply 12 by x divided by 3. So that's going to be 12x divided by 3, which is 4x. And then let's multiply 12 by 1/2. Half of 12 is 6. Now what is 12 times 5/4? There's two ways in which you can do this. You can multiply first and then divide, or divide first and then multiply. 12 times 5 is 60. 60 divided by 4 is 15. Or you could say 12 divided by 4 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. So either case, you're going to get the same value. Now, let's subtract both sides by 6. 15 minus 6 is 9. So we have 4x is equal to 9. Let's divide by 4. So now we have an improper fraction. X is 9 over 4. And that is the answer. If you want to convert it to a mixed number, separate 9 into 8 and 1. 8 plus 1 is 9. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So we have 2 plus 1/4, which is the same as 2 and 1/4 as a mixed number. As a decimal, 1/4 is 0.25. So 9 over 4 is equivalent to 2.25. Now let's spend a moment talking about exponents. So what is 2 raised to the third power? What is that equal to? Having exponents suggests repeated multiplication. And if you recall, multiplication is repeated addition. So 2 to the third power means that you're multiplying 3 2's together, which is equal to 8. 4 to the third means that you're multiplying 4 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. So 4 to the third is 64. Now, what is the value of these three expressions? Negative 2 squared, negative 3 squared, and negative 3 inside of parentheses squared. So above we have a negative and we're multiplying two 2's. The 2 is positive and we have two of them. So 2 times 2 is 4, combined with a negative sign, that's negative 4. These two expressions are equivalent. So this is negative times 3 times another 3, which is negative 9. On the bottom we have two negative 3's multiplied to each other. Since the negative is inside the parentheses, it's affected by the exponent. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. So make sure you know the difference between those expressions. Now the next thing we need to talk about is factoring monomials. For example, let's say if we have the expression 14x. How can we factor this monomial that is writing everything in terms of prime numbers? 14, we can break it down into 7 times 2. And we only have one x variable, so that's 14x. That's how you can factor it. Now let's say if we want to factor 9y squared. 9 is 3 times 3. Y squared is y times y. So that's how you can factor that monomial. Now what about 8x y squared? Go ahead and factor it completely. 8 is basically 2 times 2 times 2. We have one x variable and two y variables. So that's 8x y squared, completely factored. Try these two. 28 a squared b, negative 12 x cubed y, and 18 x to the fourth y to the fifth. So go ahead and factor those monomials completely. Let's start with 28. 28 is 7 times 4. And 4, we can break that down into 2 times 2. So that's 28. A squared is a times a, and then we have one b variable. 12 is negative 4 times 3. And 4 is 2 times 2. X cubed is x times x times x. And we have a y variable. Now 18 is 3 times 6. And 6 we could break down into 3 times 2. X to the fourth means that we're multiplying 4 x variables. And y to the fifth means that we're multiplying 5 y variables together. And so that is the answer. So now you know how to factor monomials completely. Now the next topic of discussion is finding the GCF, the greatest common factor. What is the greatest common factor between 8 and 12? So we're looking for a number that's less than 8 and 12, and that goes into 8 and 12. So this number, 8 and 12, are both divisible by this integer. So what is the highest number that is divisible by 8 and 12? So first, let's factor 8 completely. 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. So notice that 8 and 12 have these numbers in common. That is 2 times 2. So basically, it's 4. That is the greatest common factor between 8 and 12. 8 is divisible by 4, and 12 is also divisible by 4. Let's try another example. What is the greatest common factor between 12 and 18? So feel free to pause the video and try that example. So let's write out the prime factorization of 12 and 18. 12 is 3 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2. 18 is 3 times 6, and 6 is 3 times 2. So 12 and 18 have a 3 in common, and they also have a 2 in common. 3 times 2 is 6, so that is the GCF between 12 and 18. the greatest common factor is 6. Now, what is the greatest common factor between three numbers, 27, 36, and 45? So go ahead and try that. 27 is 9 times 3, and 9 is 3 times 3. So 27 is 3 to the third power. 36 is 3 times 12, and 12 is 3 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2. 45 is 5 times 9, and 9 is 3 times 3. So all of these numbers have these two in common. That is 3 times 3. So the GCF between 27, 36, and 45 is 9. Each of those numbers are divisible by 9. Now, what about this example? What is the greatest common factor between 5xy and 10x squared y? So let's follow the same process. 5xy is simply 5 times x times y. 10x squared is 5 times 2 times x times y. So we have a 5 in common, and we have an x in common, and we also have a y in common. So therefore, the greatest common factor is 5xy. Let's try this one, 6x and 9x squared. What's the GCF? So we could factor 6x into 3 times 2 times x. 9x squared is 3 times 3 times x. So these two terms have 3x in common. So that's going to be the GCF between 6x and 9x squared. It's 3x. Now let's spend a few moments simplifying fractions. For example, what is 14x squared y divided by 63xy? When dividing monomials, what you can do is you can simplify it by factoring. 14 is 7 times 2. X squared is x times x, and then we have a y. 63 is 7 times 9. And we still have an x and a y. Notice what we can cancel at this point. We could cancel a 7, and we can cancel an x and a y. So on top, what we have left over is 2 times x. On the bottom, simply a 9. So the answer is 2x divided by 9. And that's how you could simplify monomials by factoring. Let's try another example. What is x squared divided by x to the 5th power? So let's simplify by factoring. X squared is x times x. X to the 5th is basically 5x variables multiplied to each other. So we could cancel 2 of them, and that leaves behind 3x variables on the bottom. And x times x times x is simply x cubed. So the answer is 1 divided by x cubed. Now what about this one? Y to the 4th divided by y squared. Y to the 4th is y times y times another y. And y squared is simply y times y. So we could cancel 2 of these, leaving behind y times y, which is y squared. Try this one. 21x y squared divided by 28x squared y cubed. So feel free to take a moment to simplify that expression. 21 is 7 times 3, and y squared is y times y. 28 is 7 times 4 times x squared, and y cubed is y times y times y. So first, we can cancel a 7, and we can cancel an x variable, and we could cancel 2 y variables. So on top, all we have left over is a 3. And on the bottom, we have a 4, an x, and one y variable. So it's going to be 4xy. And that's the answer. So now you know how to simplify monomials when they're divided against each other. Now I'm going to show you an online algebra course that you can use to help you with other topics. So if you go to udemy.com, and just type in algebra, and the course that I created will come up. And it's basically this one with a black background. So if you go to it, you can see an overview. And if you go to course content, you can see a list of topics that are in this course. So I have basic arithmetic, addition, subtraction, multiplication, things like that. If you want to review of fractions, you can look at section 3, solve linear equations. You have a multiple choice quiz as well, order of operations, graphing linear equations, linear quantities, absolute value expressions, and there's more, polynomials, multiplying, dividing, things like that. A whole section on factoring, that's a big thing in algebra. And then you have systems of linear equations, solving by elimination, substitution, even graphing those things. And then you have quadratic equations, rational expressions, radical expressions, and then complex imaginary numbers, exponential functions, logs, how to simplify them, functions in general like inverse functions, composite functions, and then conic sections, graphing circles, ellipse, parabolas, hyperbolas. There's 2 video quizzes on that. And finally, arithmetic and geometric sequences. So if you need help in any of these topics, feel free to check out this course when you get a chance. Now let's talk about multiplying monomials. What is x squared times x cubed? What is that equal to? When multiplying monomials, you need to add the exponents. 2 plus 3 is 5, so it's x to the 5th. You could see it this way. X squared is x times x. X cubed is x times x times x. So notice that we're multiplying 5x variables together. So it's x to the 5th. So try these. X to the 4th times x to the 7th, and x to the 8th times x to the 12th. Go ahead and try those 2 problems. So this is going to be 4 plus 7, which is 11. And x to the 8 times x to the 12, that's going to be x to the 8 plus 12, which is x raised to the 20th power. So when multiplying monomials, you should add similar variables, exponents. Here's another example. Let's say if we have x cubed y to the 5th multiplied by x to the 6th y to the 8th. So first we need to multiply x cubed and x to the 6th. And 3 plus 6 is 9, so that's going to be x to the 9th power. And here we have y to the 5th times y to the 8th, so that's going to be y to the 13th power. So we have to add all the exponents. Now what about this one? 3x squared times negative 4x to the 4th power. Go ahead and try that. So first we got to multiply 3 and negative 4, which that's going to be negative 12. And then we can multiply x squared by x to the 4th, which is x to the 6th power. So it's negative 12 times x to the 6th. Here's another one. 2x cubed y to the 4th times 8x to the 5th y to the 7th. Go ahead and multiply those 2 terms. So let's begin by multiplying 2 times 8. 2 times 8 is 16. Next, x to the 3rd times x to the 5th. 3 plus 5 is 8. And then y to the 4th times y to the 7th. 4 plus 7 is 11. And so you should get that answer. Now let's talk about dividing monomials. What is y to the 7th divided by y squared? When multiplying, you should add the exponents, but when dividing, you need to subtract the exponents. So this is going to be 7 minus 2, which is 5. Now to explain it, let's use factorization. Y to the 7th means that we have 7 y variables multiplied together. Y squared is just y times y. We could cancel 2 of them, but notice that we have 5 y variables left over on the top. So that's why it's simply y to the 5th over 1, which is y to the 5th. Now what is 3 to the 7th divided by 3 to the 3rd power? Go ahead and try that. So we know that we need to subtract the exponents. 7 minus 3 is 4. So this is 3 to the 4th power, which is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So we have 9 times 9, which is 81. And so that's the answer for this example. Now what is x cubed times x to the 8th divided by x to the 5th power? So to begin, in order to simplify this expression, let's multiply x cubed by x to the 8th first. 3 plus 8 is 11. Now at this point we could divide. 11 minus 5 is 6, and so that's going to be the final answer. Here's another one that you could try. Y to the 8th divided by y squared times y cubed. So take a minute and work on that example. So first, I would multiply the 2 on the bottom, which I think it's easiest to do first. 2 plus 3 is 5. And now it's best to divide. 8 minus 5 is 3. So the answer is y to the 3rd. Now try this one. What is x squared divided by x to the 7th? That's going to be 2 minus 7. You take the top number first and subtract it by the one on the bottom. Now this is equal to x to the negative 5. So what does that mean? X to the negative 5 is 1 over x to the 5. So when you have a negative exponent, what you need to do is move the variable to the bottom, and the negative exponent will change sign. It's going to become positive. To verify, we could simplify this another way. X squared is x times x, and x to the 7, is basically 7 x variables multiplied to each other, 2 of which can be canceled. So we have 5 x variables on the bottom. Thus is 1 over x to the 5th power. So what is 3 to the negative 1 power? So right now the 3 is on the numerator of the fraction. If you bring it to the denominator, it's going to have a positive 1 exponent. X to the negative 2 is equivalent to 1 over x squared. And 1 over x to the negative 4 is x to the positive 4. So when you move a variable or a number from the top to the bottom or to the bottom to the top, the exponent changes sign. It can switch from negative to positive. What is negative 4 raised to the negative 2 power? So first, we need to bring it down. This is negative 4 raised to the 2nd power. Negative 4 squared is positive 16. So that's 1 over 16. So now you know what to do if you ever have a negative exponent. Now let's spend a few minutes talking about percentages. So what is 15% of 300? How do you find a percentage of a number? Well, let's see if we could do it mentally. So first, what is 10% of 300? Do you know? It's very easy to find 10% of a number. All you need to do is move the decimal 1 unit to the left. It's basically 1/10 of that number. So 1/10 of 300 is 30. So if 10% of 300 is 30, what is 5% of 300? Well, 5% is half of 10%. So half of 30 is 15. So now, what is 15%? 15% is the sum of 10% and 5%. So therefore, 15% is going to be 30 plus 15, or 45. So 45 is 15% of 300. Now, if you want to use your calculator, all you need to do is take 300 and multiply by the decimal value of 15%. To convert a percentage into a number, you can divide this number by 100 or simply move the decimal 2 units to the left. So 15% is equivalent to 0.15. And so if you take 300 and multiply by 0.15, this will give you 45. So that's how you could find the percentage of a number. Let's try another example. What is 20% of 500? See if you can do it mentally. Now let's find out the value of 10% of 500. So all I need to do is move the decimal 1 unit to the left. So 10% of 500 is just 50. Now 20% of 500 has to be what number? Well, 20% is twice the value of 10%. So if we multiply 50 by 2, we'll get 100. So 100 is 20% of 50. To verify it, multiply 500 by 0.20, and you should get 100. Now, here's another one. What is 25% of 400? So go ahead and try that one mentally. So let's find the value of 10%. 10% of 400 is 40. So another 10% is 40 as well. And 5%, that's half of 10, so half of 40 is 20. So if we add 10, 10, and 5, that will give us the 25% that we need. And 40 plus 40 plus 20 is 100. So therefore, 25% of 400, which is basically a quarter of 400, or 1/4 of it, is 100. Here's another example. What is 23% of 800? So first, let's find the value of 10%. 10% of 800 is 80. Another 10% is 80 as well. Now, what is 1% of 800? To find 1%, you need to move the decimal 2 units to the left. So that's going to be 8. It's basically 1/10 of 80. So if 1% is 8, what's 3%? That has to be 8 times 3. It's 3 times this value, so it's 24. So therefore, 23% is the sum of 10, 10, and 3. So we got to add up 80 plus 80, which is 160, plus 24. So that's 184. So that's 23% of 800. It's 184. Now, what is 17% of 900? Go ahead and figure that out. So let's start with 10%. 10% of 900 is 90. 5% is half of 10%, so half of 90 is 45. And 1%, that's 1/10 of 90, so that's going to be 9. So 2% must be twice the value of 9, so that's 18. So to get 17%, we got to add 10, 5, and 2. That's 17%. So we need to add up 90 plus 45, that's 135, plus 18, which is 153. So that should be the answer. And to check it, you can type this in your calculator. Take 900 and multiply it by 0.17. And you do indeed get 153. Now, before we end this video, there's one more topic that is common in pre-algebra, and that's solving similar triangles. So let's say if these two triangles are similar to each other. And let's say this is 15, this is 12, and this is 9, and this is x. If these are similar triangles, what is the value of x? Now, the best way to solve a similar triangle is to set up a proportion. Let's call this triangle 1, triangle 2. And let's say that 15 is the height of triangle 1, 12 is the base. And here this is the base and this is the height. So let's set up a proportion between triangle 1 and triangle 2. So we need two fractions separated by an equal sign. On top, I'm going to put the height. On the bottom, the base. So the height of triangle 1 is 15. The height of triangle 2 is 9. The base of triangle 1 is 12. And the base of triangle 2 is x. And then you're just simply solving. You have to be careful when setting up the proportion correctly. If you don't do it correctly, then you're going to get the wrong answer. So that's why it helps to have one side to represent triangle 1 and the other side to represent triangle 2. Now let's cross multiply. So we have 12 times 9, which is equal to 15 times x. So what is the value of x? Well, let's simplify before we multiply. 12 is 4 times 3, and 9 is 3 times 3. 15 is 5 times 3. So we could at least cancel a 3. Now let's divide both sides by 5. So on the right side we have x. On the left side we have 4 times 9, which is 3 times 3 divided by 5. So it's going to be 36 divided by 5. So that's the value of x. Now let's turn this into a mixed number. 36 is 35 plus 1. And 35 divided by 5 is 7. So as a mixed number, this is 7 and 1/5. 1/5 is 0.2 as a decimal. So it's also equal to 7.2.